The twin suns of Carrion set behind the shattered cliffs, painting the alien sky in deep violet and orange. The night wind whispered through broken metal towers, once part of a human outpost now taken by time and dust. On the ridge above the valley, a lone human lay still, hidden beneath layers of camouflage netting, his scope fixed on a small village far below. His name was Raynor Hale, once a sniper of the United Earth Defense Corps, now a ghost guarding what remained of his mission. Down in that quiet alien village lived Alien, a young girl of the Sarathi species. She didn't know that every step she took, every path she crossed, every danger she escaped, was because of the invisible man watching her from the shadows. For 10 years, Raynor had protected her, and she had never once known he existed that night. Alien walked home through the dusty trail after fetching water. The twin moons cast silver light over her pale blue skin and white hair. She hummed softly, unaware that in the darkness beyond the trees, 2 armed raiders watched her. Their claws tapped against their weapons. Hungry for easy prey, Raynor saw them through his scope. His breath slowed, his heartbeat steady. The rangefinder blinked, 210 meters. He had seen this before hundreds of times. The predators of this planet hunted the weak, especially the Sarathi orphans. Alien had been one of them when Raynor first found her. He whispered to himself, "Not tonight," and squeezed the trigger. The first raider dropped silently, a neat hole through his chest. The second froze, confused, then turned to run. But before he could vanish into the forest, another quiet shot echoed. He fell too. Alien stopped walking. Her jug trembling in her hands, she heard something in the woods. Something distant but close enough to make her heart pound. She looked around but saw nothing. Only silence and the cold wind brushing through the trees. Raynor didn't move. He waited, eyes still in his scope, watching her carefully. She bent down to touch the ground where one of the raiders had fallen, but the bodies had already rolled into the darkness. He had chosen his shots carefully, silent and clean. No trace, no witnesses, no proof of his presence. Stay safe. "Little one," he murmured, lowering his rifle. He pulled back into his small cave high in the cliffs. It was filled with human relics, an old comm device, a photo of his lost squad, and rations long expired. For 10 years he had lived here, surviving on alien fruits, water, and the will to protect the one being who reminded him of home. Sometimes, when Alien laughed with the village children, he would smile behind his scope. She had grown taller, stronger, her eyes brighter than before. He remembered the day he found her alone, crying beside the ruins of a Sarathi convoy. Her parents gone, he could have walked away. But something in her eyes stopped him. He made a promise that day, a silent one, that as long as he breathed, no harm would come to her. But this night felt different. The air was tense, and even from his high perch, Raynor could see strange lights beyond the horizon, red trails in the sky, ships not local, too fast, too organized. He turned his scope toward the mountains, and his heart sank. It wasn't raiders this time. It was soldiers armored and disciplined, carrying the flag of the Karn Dominion. Alien's village was about to become a target. Raynor grabbed his rifle and pack. His muscles ached from years of solitude, but his eyes burned with purpose. The girl he had protected for a decade was in danger again. Only this time he couldn't remain a ghost. As he moved down the ridge, the wind carried a faint sound. Alien's voice, singing softly, unaware of what was coming. Raynor paused, looked once more at the photo of his old squad taped to his scope, and whispered, "For them, and for her." Then he disappeared into the darkness, toward the village where destiny waited under alien moons, and where a silent protector would soon step into the light. The next morning began with silence. The village woke to a strange orange glow on the horizon. Alien stood near the well, squinting at the sky. The clouds shimmered like metal, and something deep inside her heart whispered that something terrible was coming. Children ran around laughing, unaware of the storm above. Old merchants shouted for trade. The air smelled of smoke and ash, faint but growing. Alien felt it before she saw it, the faint rumble under her feet. The echo of engines, something far greater than thunder. Up in the cliffs, Raynor adjusted his scope. His lens caught sight of black dots cutting through the dawn. Ships, 5 of them moving in formation, descending fast. His pulse quickened. His old training returned in a heartbeat. The Karn Dominion, they were here. He hadn't seen their colors since the war. Crimson and silver, sharp like blades. He reached for his radio. A cracked human device patched with alien wires. "Command post, this is Hale. Reporting possible hostile landing on Carrion. Coordinates Delta 7, Static answered. The device had died years ago, he whispered to himself. Looks like it's just me again below. Alien ran to the village elder, a gray-skinned Sarathi woman named Mara. The sky is burning, Alien said, pointing up. What are those lights? The elder frowned. Stay indoors, child. Those are warships, her voice trembled. If they find us, we run. But there was nowhere to run. The ships broke through the clouds, engines screaming. Dust exploded across the valley as metal beasts landed near the outer ridge. Soldiers poured out, armored, masked, armed with energy rifles that glowed like fire. Raynor's scope zoomed in. He counted 50, maybe more. They were searching. Scanning the ground with motion trackers, he understood immediately. They weren't here for trade or conquest. They were hunting, and if they scanned long enough, they would find Alien's village. He opened his old crate and pulled out the last of his equipment, an EMP charge, 2 frag rounds and 1 high-caliber anti-armor bullet. He cleaned his rifle, checked the wind, and whispered, "Let's dance." "You bastards." Alien watched the soldiers from the cliff's edge. Her curiosity overcame her fear. She had never seen humans, never seen machines of war, and she didn't know that far above her, one human was watching her again, aiming not at her but at the enemy who threatened her life. The first explosion tore through the air. One of the Karn transports went up in a ball of flame, debris scattering across the valley. Soldiers screamed in confusion, looking around. They didn't see the sniper hidden among the rocks. Raynor shifted, fired again, another shot. Another kill, precise and silent. He was a ghost again, protecting from afar, but this time, the Karns were not fools. They deployed scanners, drones and flame units sweeping the hills. Alien saw the fire spreading up the cliffs. She didn't know what was happening, but she could feel danger closing in. She ran back to the village, yelling, "Get everyone inside!" "They're coming." Mira looked at her, eyes wide. "Who's coming?" "The men from the sky." Alien cried, "They have fire!" The ground shook again. A crimson beam shot through one of the huts. The villagers screamed, panic spreading like wildfire. Children cried, elders prayed. Alien grabbed a small boy's hand and pulled him toward the caves behind the village. From above, Raynor saw the chaos. His heart pounded. He couldn't stay hidden anymore. He switched to burst mode and opened fire. His bullets danced through the air, dropping enemies one after another. His cloak flickered as he moved positions. The drones locked onto him. He fired one last round, then rolled into the rocks as a drone exploded nearby. His shoulder burned, a piece of shrapnel tearing his armor. But he didn't stop, not when he saw one soldier charging straight toward Alien. Raynor didn't think. He aimed, fired, and the Karn fell. Alien froze. The sound came from the cliffs. She looked up, eyes wide. Through the smoke and chaos she saw it, a shadowed figure moving along the ridge, metal glinting in the firelight. For the first time in 10 years, she saw the man who had been watching her all her life. Their eyes met for a second, hers filled with shock and confusion, his with silent relief. Then he turned away and vanished into the smoke. Alien's voice broke through the roaring wind. "Who are you?" But Raynor didn't answer. He was already gone, disappearing back into the war that had once destroyed everything, this time to save what little remained. And deep in her heart, Alien knew. Her life had never truly been her own. Someone had been there all along, unseen but always near. And now that ghost was back in the open, fighting once more to protect her. Smoke still hung in the air, drifting like ghostly ribbons through the broken village. The fires burned slow, and the sound of sobbing mixed with the distant hum of departing ships. The Karn soldiers had left, half of them dead, the rest fleeing after the mysterious sniper's sudden assault. Alien stood in the ruins of her home, dust and ash clinging to her skin. The villagers whispered around her, some praying, some blaming. No one knew who had fired those deadly shots, but they all spoke of a shadow on the cliffs, a spirit that fought for them. Alien's heart wouldn't rest. The image of that figure burned inside her mind, the glint of metal, the steady movement, the eyes that had met hers through smoke and flame. He wasn't a ghost, he was real, a living being. And she needed to find him. She wrapped her shawl tighter, ignoring Mara's warning voice. "Do not go near the cliffs, child. That place is cursed." Alien shook her head. "If it was cursed, we'd all be dead. Someone protected us. And I want to thank him," the elder sighed. "Some debts are better left unpaid," but Alien didn't listen. She turned and began her climb toward the black ridge. The trail was steep, littered with stone and metal fragments from an old war. She didn't know that the one she sought was already watching her. From high above, through a cracked scope, Raynor's shoulder still bled where the shrapnel had torn through his armor. He pressed a bandage to it and grimaced. He hadn't planned to be seen. He had lived 10 years as a shadow, unseen and forgotten. Now his cover was gone. And worse, his presence would draw the Carns back. He saw her climbing, small but determined, her white hair glowing in the sunlight. "Damn it, kid," he whispered. "What are you doing?" He aimed his scope away, forcing himself to ignore her. But his instinct screamed louder. She shouldn't be here, not when the Carn scanners were still sweeping the region. He packed his rifle, slung his bag, and began to move. Silent and fast along the ridge, his boots left no trace, his cloak blending with the rock. He reached the ledge above her path just as she slipped on loose stone. She gasped, her foot sliding. The edge crumbling beneath her, Raynor jumped without thinking. His hand caught hers just as she fell. For the first time she saw his face, rough, scarred, his eyes cold but kind. Alien stared in shock, her voice trembling. You're real." He pulled her up with one arm, breathing hard. "Yeah, unfortunately," he muttered, checking the horizon. "You shouldn't have come here. You saved me," she said, her voice breaking. "You saved all of us." Raynor looked at her. Silent, his gaze softened for a moment. "Go back to your people. The Carns will return soon. Not until I know who you are," she said stubbornly. Standing tall despite her fear, he almost smiled. "Name's Raynor, former UEDC sniper." He looked away. "Last human on this rock, probably." Her eyes widened. "Human? From the old war?" "Yeah," he said, tightening his bandage. "From the war your people won't talk about." A sudden roar split the air. Gunfire. Coming from below, Raynor's head snapped up. Through his scope, he saw Carn patrols circling back toward the village. "They're here again," he said, slinging his rifle. "Move." Alien hesitated. "You're hurt." "You can't—" "I said move." His tone cut through her fear. He pushed her ahead of him, guiding her toward a narrow tunnel that led deeper into the cliffs. They slipped inside as the first drone swept overhead. The cave was cold and dark, lit only by the faint glow of Raynor's wrist light. The air smelled of stone and dust. "Why are they attacking us?" Alien asked quietly. "We have nothing." Raynor loaded his rifle, his voice low. "They're not after your village. They're after me. 10 years ago I killed one of their generals. They never forgot." Alien's breath caught. "You stayed all these years. For me?" He didn't answer. His silence said enough. Outside, the sky lit up again with red beams. The Carns were scanning the cliffs, searching for the ghost sniper. Raynor looked at the girl beside him, tired, scared but strong. "Listen," he said firmly. "If they find us, you run." "No arguments," she shook her head. "No. I'm staying with you." He almost laughed, despite the danger. "You're just like her," he whispered. "Like who?" Alien asked, confused. He looked away, his eyes darkening. "Someone I failed to protect." And before she could ask again, the cave walls trembled. Light poured through the cracks, and the sound of armored boots echoed closer. The hunt for the ghost sniper had begun, and this time he wasn't fighting alone. The sound of boots echoed through the tunnels. Rhythmic and sharp, the Carn soldiers were close, their scanners pulsing like red eyes in the dark. Dust fell from the cave ceiling with every thud. Raynor crouched near the entrance, his rifle ready, his breath steady. His shoulder burned, but he ignored it. Alien pressed against the wall behind him, her wide eyes reflecting the dim blue light from his wristband. Her voice was barely a whisper. "They'll find us." "Not if we move first," Raynor said, his voice calm like stone. "Keep quiet and stay behind me." The tunnel split into two paths ahead, one narrow and steep, the other wide and echoing. Raynor scanned both with his old thermal lens. The heat signatures on the right path were faint, old mining shafts, abandoned, perfect for a trap. He motioned for Alien to follow. They slipped into the right tunnel, their footsteps silent. The deeper they went, the colder it became. Strange glowing fungi painted the walls with pale green light. The air smelled of minerals and old metal. Alien whispered, "How long have you lived like this?" 10 years, Raynor said without looking back. "Since the fall of Outpost 47, she frowned. "You mean the human base that vanished in the last war?" "Vanished," he repeated softly. "That's one word for it." She hesitated. "Were you the only one who survived?" Raynor's jaw tightened. "There were others. A team of 12, we were ordered to hold this planet. Protect the Sarathi civilians during the evacuation. He paused, his voice lowering. The Karns came early. They wiped everyone out. Men, women, even the refugees. I was the only one left breathing. Alien's heart sank. And you stayed here. To protect us. He nodded once. You were just a child back then. Crying beside your mother's broken transport, I couldn't save her. But I could save you. The tunnel shook suddenly. Raynor stopped, his instincts kicking in. The faint hum of a drone buzzed ahead. A red beam swept across the wall, growing brighter. He pushed Alien behind a rock, whispering, "Don't move." The drone drifted closer, scanning. Its sensors flickered over Raynor's old cloak, but before it could signal, he fired a silenced shot straight through its lens. The machine sparked and fell, clattering on the stone floor. Alien gasped softly. "How do you do that?" "You never miss." Raynor reloaded smoothly. "Practice. And regret," he said, eyes cold. But before they could move again, the cave lit up in crimson light. Multiple beams swept in from the rear tunnel. The Karns had found their trail. Run! Raynor barked, shoving Alien forward. They dashed down the shaft, bullets and plasma bolts striking the stone around them. Sparks flew, echoing in the dark. Alien stumbled, but Raynor caught her arm, pulling her through a narrow gap. They slid down a slope into a lower chamber, an ancient mining hall filled with rusted machines and broken carts. "Hide there," he ordered, pointing to a large metal structure. He turned and knelt behind a collapsed support beam, aiming his rifle at the only entrance. The first Karn soldier entered, scanning. His armor gleamed in the flickering light. Raynor didn't wait, one shot to the visor. Clean and fast, the second soldier ducked, shouting into his comm, "Target confirmed." "Human, engage!" The chamber erupted in gunfire. Raynor moved like a phantom. Each shot precise, every motion measured. He had no backup, no command. Just muscle memory and will. Alien covered her ears, trembling as the air filled with echoes of war. Then silence when she looked up. Raynor stood alone among fallen soldiers, smoke rising from his barrel. His armor was dented, his arm bleeding again. But his eyes were sharp. He walked to her slowly, breathing hard. "They'll send more." Alien stood shakily. "You can't fight them all." He gave a faint smile. "I don't need to, I just need to keep them away from you." "But why me?" she asked, her voice breaking. "Why risk everything for someone you barely know?" Raynor looked at her for a long time. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, dirty pendant. It was old, made of Sarathi crystal, faintly glowing blue. "This belonged to your mother," he said quietly. "She gave it to me before she died, told me to keep you safe, no matter the cost." Alien's eyes filled with tears. She took the pendant with shaking hands. You knew her?" He nodded. "She was brave. She helped humans escape when the Karns attacked. She died saving my squad." Before she could reply, his wristband beeped. Motion sensors, multiple readings approaching fast. "They found the lower tunnels," he said, reloading. "Time to move again." Alien wiped her tears, her fear replaced with determination. "Then I'm not leaving you," he sighed. "You're stubborn just like her." And together, they slipped deeper into the ancient mines, unaware that beyond the walls, the Karn commander had already issued a new order. "Bring me the human sniper alive." The air grew heavy with metal and silence. The old mining tunnels twisted like veins beneath the mountain. Every echo a warning, every drip of water a whisper of danger. Raynor led the way, flashlight dimmed. Rifle tight against his chest, Alien followed close, clutching her mother's pendant, her mind spinning with everything she had just learned. "Why do they want you alive?" she asked softly, her voice barely a breath. Raynor didn't look back. "Because I know something they don't want the galaxy to remember." "What is it?" she pressed. He stopped for a moment, scanning the tunnel ahead. "The war wasn't what they told you," he said slowly. "The Karn Dominion didn't conquer this planet. They bought it, traded lives for minerals. Your leaders agreed to let them remove the humans who stayed behind." Alien's steps faltered. "That can't be true. My people would never—" "They already did," he cut in sharply. "And they left their own behind, too. Those who helped humans like your mother." Her heart sank, her mind rebelling against the words. "You're lying." Raynor turned, his eyes fierce and tired. "I wish I was," he said, then turned back into the shadows. They moved deeper, but the ground trembled. The faint sound of mechanical feet grew louder from both sides. Raynor froze. "They've cut off our exits," he muttered, pulling her toward a hidden alcove. The glow of red scanners swept across the tunnel walls, and before they could hide, a blast of plasma struck the rock above them. The shockwave threw them to the ground. Dust filling the air, Raynor rolled, his rifle clattering away. His vision blurred for a moment. Then he saw armored boots surrounding them. "Karn soldiers," he growled under his breath, trying to rise, but a rifle butt slammed against his back, forcing him down. The lead soldier, taller than the rest, stepped forward, his mask shining silver under the light. "So the ghost exists after all," he said, his voice metallic and cold. "Human sniper Raynor Hale." "The last of Outpost 47, Raynor spat blood." "Took you long enough." Alien tried to move, but one of the soldiers grabbed her arm. "Let her go," Raynor shouted, but the commander raised a hand. "Oh, we will, once you tell us what we came for." Raynor stayed silent, staring at the commander. The Karn tilted his head. 10 years ago, your people destroyed our orbital relay, the one holding the coordinates to Project Dawnbreaker. You were there, weren't you?" Raynor didn't blink. "You think I'll tell you?" The commander smiled behind his mask. "No, but pain has a way of making humans talk," he nodded. And one soldier hit Raynor across the ribs. The human grunted but didn't fall. His eyes met Alien's. Calm, unbroken. "Stop," she cried. "He's not your enemy." The Karn looked at her, amused. "You defend this creature? You're Sarathi, aren't you?" She lifted her chin. "Yes, and he saved my life." The commander laughed, a harsh sound. "Saved you? Poor child, you think he's your hero? He's the reason your planet burns. Humans brought war here." Raynor's voice cut through the noise, low and steady. "No, we brought mercy. You brought slavery." The commander's smile vanished. He raised his weapon and fired a warning shot near Raynor's face. "You'll learn your place soon enough," he hissed. Alien struggled against the soldier's grip. "You monsters!" she shouted. "He's done nothing wrong." The Karn struck her across the face. And that was the mistake. Raynor's eyes went cold. His muscles tensed in one swift move. He grabbed the soldier's wrist, twisted it until the weapon dropped, then slammed his elbow into the Karn's throat. The alien staggered. Raynor kicked him down, seized the plasma rifle, and fired at the others. Energy bolts tore through the air. The tunnel filled with chaos. Alien ducked behind a rock as the walls cracked under the blasts. Raynor fought like a machine, every move precise, every shot fatal. But there were too many. He was hit once, twice. Still, he kept firing until a stun round struck his side. His body stiffened, his rifle slipped from his grasp, and he fell, breath ragged. Alien screamed, rushing toward him. But the Karn commander caught her arm. "Take them both," he ordered. "The girl might know more than she thinks." They dragged Raynor and Alien through the tunnels toward the surface, where the harsh daylight burned through the dust. The Karn ship waited like a predator. Engines humming, Raynor tried to lift his head, his voice hoarse. "Don't hurt her." The commander smirked. "Oh, we won't, not yet." "You both have parts to play in history's correction." As the ship rose into the violet sky, Alien looked at Raynor lying beside her. Bruised and barely conscious. "Why didn't you tell me?" she whispered through tears. He opened one eye, weak but still alive. "Didn't think you'd believe me." She gripped his hand tightly. "I do now." Outside, lightning flashed over the horizon, as if the planet itself mourned the fall of its hidden guardian. The ghost sniper was no longer hidden, and the galaxy was about to learn why his survival mattered more than anyone knew. The Karn ship cut through the upper sky like a blade, its engines roaring low, dark clouds swirling in its wake. Inside the cold metal halls, Raynor sat in chains, wrists bound by glowing cuffs that burned when he moved. Across from him, Alien sat quietly, her eyes filled with fear and confusion. The hum of alien machinery echoed through the chamber. Raynor kept his head low, but his mind raced. Every corridor, every sound, every vibration told him one thing. This wasn't a simple patrol craft. This was a command vessel, the kind used for high-level transport. And that meant only one thing. Someone important wanted to see him. Alien finally spoke, her voice shaking. "What is Project Dawnbreaker?" They said it like it was something terrible. Raynor looked up, his face pale under the blue lights. "It was a weapon, but not like you think." She frowned. "A weapon?" He nodded slowly. "Near the end of the war, humans developed Dawnbreaker to protect worlds like yours. It wasn't made to kill. It was made to erase coordinates, hide entire planets from galactic maps, So invaders couldn't find them. Alien's eyes widened. You mean, Earth used it on Carrion? He sighed. Yes, your planet was one of the last we tried to save. We erased it from every database, even from human navigation systems. The plan worked, but the Karns got one signal through before it finished. That's why they came back. The door hissed open. Breaking the heavy silence, a tall Karn female entered. Her armor black and silver. Her eyes glowed faintly red behind a crystal mask. Raynor Hale, she said smoothly. You caused us much trouble. Raynor raised his head, his voice calm. You must be Commander Vareth. Her lips curved into a faint smile. So you remember me? Alien looked between them, confused. You know her? Raynor's voice hardened. She was at the outpost when your mother died. She gave the order to burn the convoy. Vareth tilted her head. Unbothered, war creates monsters, human. You just happened to be one of them. Alien stood, trembling. You killed my mother, she whispered. Vareth's gaze shifted to her. Your mother made a choice. She sided with the wrong species. Before Raynor could lunge forward, the cuffs tightened, electricity burning through his arms. He gritted his teeth, his body shaking. Enough, Vareth said coldly. We didn't bring you here for old grief. We brought you because Dawnbreaker still exists, and you are the only one who can activate it. Raynor laughed bitterly. You want me to give you the codes? You think I'd help you use that? Vareth smiled. Not willingly, but we have motivation. Her hand gestured toward Alien. This girl carries the same DNA signature as her mother, the same one used to lock the final command key. We can't access the weapon without her. Alien froze, her heart pounding. What do you mean? Raynor's eyes darkened. Your mother. She was part of Dawnbreaker's final phase. She hid the last key in her bloodline. You are the key, Vareth nodded. Exactly. The coordinates to Dawnbreaker's vault are buried in your genetic code. And soon we'll have them. Alien stepped back. Shaking her head, no. You can't, Raynor struggled against the cuffs. Don't touch her. Vareth's voice turned cold. Take them to the lab. The guards pulled them out, dragging them down the long corridor lined with alien symbols. The air grew colder the deeper they went. The walls hummed faintly with power. They entered a bright room filled with glass tanks and holographic devices. The smell of chemicals stung Alien's nose. A metal table stood in the center. Surrounded by surgical arms, Raynor fought harder. You don't understand what Dawnbreaker is. It's not a weapon you can control, it's a veil, it hides everything. Even time. Vareth leaned close, her tone amused. Then it will hide us from your kind when we rise again. The machine's word to life. Red light scanning Alien's face, she closed her eyes, terrified. Raynor clenched his fists until the cuffs bled. He had one chance, one hidden trick left. The old EMP capsule inside his wrist gauntlet. It was ancient. Weak, but it might buy them a few seconds. He waited until the machine's arm reached for Alien. Then, he slammed his wrist against the edge of the table, shattering the capsule. A pulse of blue light erupted across the lab. Sparks flew, consoles died, alarms screamed. The soldiers staggered, blinded. Raynor broke free from his loosened cuffs, grabbed a fallen rifle and fired. The lights flickered. Smoke filled the air. Run, he shouted, pulling Alien behind him. They burst into the corridor, alarms howling through the ship. Vareth's furious voice echoed from the speakers. Seal the decks. Don't let them reach the hangar. Alien gasped as they sprinted. Where are we going? Raynor reloaded. To finish what your mother started, he said, we're going to Dawnbreaker. The doors slammed shut behind them, and for the first time, Alien saw something fierce in his eyes, hope, faint but burning even against an empire. The ghost sniper and the alien girl were no longer hiding. They were running toward the secret that could change the fate of two species. The stolen Karn ship tore through the clouds of carrion, its hull smoking and engines whining under strain. Raynor sat in the pilot seat, hands steady despite the blood dripping from his arm, Alien beside him. Eyes wide as the alien landscape blurred beneath them. Are we really going there? She asked, her voice trembling between fear and wonder. Yes, Raynor said quietly. We're going to Dawnbreaker, the place your mother died to protect. The autopilot flickered. Warning lights flashing across the console, Raynor pushed the controls harder. Guiding the ship toward the mountains rising from the mist in the distance, a storm brewed. Glowing blue with strange energy, that's it, he said, nodding toward the storm's heart. Dawnbreaker's vault, it hides inside that field. The storm isn't natural. It's a defense grid running for 10 years without power. Alien gripped the seat. Can we get through? Not without a miracle, Rayner said, then cracked a faint grin. Good thing I still believe in those. The ship shuddered as they entered the field, lightning crawling across the hull like living fire. Energy danced along the glass, and for a moment, Alien saw shapes in the storm, ghostly silhouettes. Voices whispering, "Protect the light," then silence. They broke through the clouds, and below them lay a valley glowing with ancient light. Metallic ruins and towers half buried in crystal, all converging on a massive circular structure, pulsing with soft blue energy. "Welcome home," Rayner murmured, guiding the ship down. The landing gear touched the cracked stone, the engines died, the air was cold. But alive with energy, Alien stepped out, her hair lifting slightly in the static wind. She looked around in awe. "It's beautiful." Rayner looked at the main gate, tall, silver marked with human and Sarathi symbols intertwined. "It was built by both our people," he said, "before the war tore us apart. Before they could move closer, a deep hum filled the air." A shadow fell over them as another ship descended from the clouds, sleek, black, bearing the crimson insignia of the Karn Dominion. Rayner's jaw tightened. "She's here." Commander Vareth stepped out, her armor glinting under the vault's glow. "I told you, human," she said, her voice echoing. "You can't hide from history." Rayner raised his rifle. Wasn't planning to. The two forces faced each other, the last human sniper and the alien commander who ended his war. Alien stood between them, clutching her pendant, its light growing stronger. Vareth's voice softened almost mockingly. "Give me the key, girl." "You don't even know what it truly holds," Alien shook her head. "Maybe not, but my mother trusted him, and that's enough for me." Vareth's smile faded. "Then you'll die like her." She raised her weapon, but Rayner was faster. His shot grazed her shoulder, sparks flying. The soldiers behind her opened fire. The vault trembled as the ancient structure awakened, energy surging through the ground. Rayner pulled Alien behind a pillar. "The pendant." He shouted, "Put it in the gate's core, hurry!" "But what will it do?" She cried. "End this," he said, his eyes fierce. "For everyone." Alien sprinted through the chaos, plasma bolts tearing the ground near her feet. Vareth roared and fired. But Rayner stepped out, drawing her aim. He fired again and again, taking down soldiers. His body shaking with exhaustion, he shouted over the noise, "Go, Alien, now!" Alien reached the gate, the pendant glowing bright as a star. She pressed it into the center symbol. The ground pulsed with light, a deep tone filling the air. The storm above shifted, clouds parting, beams of blue light shooting into the sky. The Karn soldiers stopped firing, staring in shock as their weapons began to dissolve into static dust. "What have you done?" Vareth screamed, backing away. Rayner limped toward her, lowering his rifle. "Something your empire could never understand," he said softly. "Mercy." The vault's light expanded, wrapping around everything, ships, soldiers, ruins, turning them into shimmering outlines before fading. When the light dimmed, only Rayner and Alien remained. The valley was quiet, peaceful. The storm was gone. Alien turned, tears glistening. "Where are they?" Rayner looked at the sky, erased from the network, from every scanner, every record of this planet, just like Dawnbreaker was meant to do. She frowned. "And us?" He smiled faintly. "We stay to make sure peace lasts." Alien looked at him. "You'll never stop protecting, will you?" He chuckled weakly. Old habits as the suns began to rise. Painting the valley in gold, Rayner sat beside her, his rifle laid to rest at his side. "Your mother would be proud," he said quietly. Alien looked at the horizon, the pendant still glowing in her hand. "Maybe," she said softly, "but she'd tell us it's time to rebuild." Rayner nodded, closing his eyes for a moment. The ghost sniper had finally stepped into the light, and for the first time in 10 long years he wasn't alone. And high above, the galaxy's eyes turned, searching for the human ghost who vanished again, leaving only a legend behind, the protector who watched from the shadows, and the girl who finally saw him.